Hi, I'm Steve Dermond. I'm an executive officer with the Law Enforcement Bureau with the Iowa Department of Natural Resources, and I also coordinate Iowa's Falconry program. One of the things about falconry is back in the 1970s, it first became legal to trap and fly a raptor based on Iowa's newly imposed falconry regulations, and that is also through the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, because raptors are a migratory bird species. They have actually two authoritative bodies that govern the take and flying in falconry, that is federal and state. In my coordination role, I work with falconers and prospective falconers, and when someone contacts me and is interested in falconry and getting started in that sport, they first have to make an application to our department, which I handle and process, and they have to go through an apprenticeship. And that apprenticeship is for 2 years. They have to be apprenticed to a licensed falconer who is either a general or a master class falconer. And that mentoring or apprenticeship lasts, as I said, for 2 years. During that 2-year period, that apprentice must fly a red-tailed hawk successfully in order to then, at that time, at the end of 2 years, be upgraded to a general class falconer. Falconry first became popular in Europe, in Asia. It was known as the sport of kings and has kind of carried over as a traditional or old world style of hunting game, small game. Anything from rabbits on up to, even in some cases, small animals such as deer or small antelope, with the larger eagles and larger raptors. In Iowa, we require that falconers with their birds, they are banded, so they are identified birds, and we have records and paperwork which show those birds in their possession. There can be, in the case of general or master class falconers, there can be a case of possessing a wild raptor or a captive bred bird. Captive bred birds can be birds such as peregrines or peregrine hybrids, gyrfalcons and things like this, or goshawks, which would be raised in captivity. Those birds are utilized and hunted. They are actually possessed and owned by those falconers. On the other side, the wild birds or the wild resource birds are taken and possessed but not owned. They are always a wild resource, and at some time that falconer will choose to release that bird, whether it be a red tail or a Cooper's hawk or a goshawk or some other bird that is legal for them to trap and take out of the wild and fly for a period of time. And those birds are released at some point in time based on that falconer and his or her use or needs, and at the time of their choosing. As I was saying, there are 3 classes of falconers. There's an apprentice, a general class, and a master class. And the falconer becomes a general class falconer after they have completed their 2 years of apprenticeship. And then after a point of 5 years being a general class falconer, that person can then become a master class falconer. And the apprentice falconer has the ability to possess one bird, a red tail. General class falconers can possess up to 2 birds at any given time on their license or permit. And a master class falconer can possess up to 3 birds on their license and permit. They have to have permits and licenses from both the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service and the state of Iowa, in our case here. Most all states that I'm aware of have some type of a falconry program or a program in which people can hunt game, small game, with raptors. There is recently some initiative by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to change a few of their regulations, which would encompass the possible taking of wild peregrines by licensed falconers. That's something that they're looking at right now. They're getting comments and feedback from the states and also from the private sector, which would be licensed falconers and other interested groups and parties. In Iowa, that's something that will be looked at by the Department of Natural Resources and our wildlife folks. Right now, Iowa is involved in a peregrine release program, and the Iowa Falconers Association has been very active in working cooperatively with our department in that release program.